So this is the third session back to back, so please bear with me. So we'll not go through a PowerPoint presentation in this session. We will actually do a demo. So this session is about how can we do some real-time stuff in Drupal with the help of Node.js. So how many of you have already worked with Drupal? I guess most of you, right? And how many of you know what Node.js is? So yeah, if you know Node.js, you might also know that it's very good for real-time stuff. It has an event loop and it is very, very scalable. So why use Node.js with Drupal? Let's see. So we want to push some notifications to the client without making them refresh their page. Anybody knows how to do it in Drupal without much hassle? Is there any feasible solution, or anybody has implemented this on live? So we can see an example on Facebook.com, right? We get new notifications without reloading our Facebook page. So if we had to do something similar to that on Drupal, how can we do that? So why is real-time implementation hard in any conventional programming languages? Any guesses? Because we use HTTP, right? And as we all know, HTTP is a stateless protocol. So until unless the browser requests something from the server cannot initiate a communication with the browser, right? It cannot maintain a persistent connection. We need a TCP, transfer control protocol. We need a permanent connection to do that. So up till now we use Ajax, we use polling, long polling to do this, but none of them are real time, right? It has a delay. The delay can be the poll frequency or whatever time it takes, and it is not very scalable solution. So we introduced Node.js. So what is Node.js? Node.js is server-side JavaScript. We have seen a lot of JavaScript on web browser. We have done a lot of JavaScript and jQuery on our web browsers, but Node.js takes JavaScript to the server. It uses Google's V8 JavaScript engine. V8 is by far the fastest JavaScript engine. It's very light, powerful, and scalable. Why? What makes Node.js scalable? The nature of JavaScript is asynchronous, right? When we talk about JavaScript, the first thing that comes to our mind is asynchronous programming. What is asynchronous? Asynchronous means for any conventional language like PHP or Java, there is an execution thread. Suppose if I have to request a file from the file system, my execution will stop until unless the file is returned back, right? But JavaScript is asynchronous. We can request a file, the file handler will fetch the file. Meanwhile, it is fetching the file, we can execute other things. So there is one event loop in Node.js, one main thread. With Drupal or PHP, what happens is, whenever there is a new request from the client, there is a new PHP process that starts, right? And after the request is served, the process stays for a while and then dies out. In Node.js, there is only one process. No new process starts with a new request. We have one event loop which does everything for us. It gets other works done through workers, right? For example, if I am requesting a specific file on the server, the event loop will call the file handler or the file system, ask it to return the file. Meanwhile, it will look for another request, another incoming request. So the overhead that happens in creating a process, forking a new process, and then terminating it is saved. And this makes Node.js really, really fast. And there is a library called socket.io, which can be used for real-time stuff. Socket.io implements real-time communication or maintains a persistent socket between the client and the server using HTML5's Websockets. polling, long polling, there are different, then Ajax sockets, flash sockets. So there are 5, 6 different mechanisms in which it implements TCP connection, socket connection. And it can work on all browsers, even on browsers like IE 5.5 or IE 6. So we have only a couple of more slides. We will see the demo how this is actually done. So writing a Node.js program is very simple. Picking up Node.js is very simple. If you have basic idea of JavaScript, you can pick up Node.js very easily. So this code snippet that you can see here is the basic Node.js Hello World program. Node.js doesn't require Apache or Nginx. It ships with a server library. So this code here that we see is also a server, is also a web server and an application. Now we'll see how we'll see Node.js in action. So let me go to the demo. So Node.js is a basic framework. It does not support all the things that you require. It's not a CMS like Drupal, right? There is an Express framework, which is a middleware of Node.js, which enables the basic features, web features. So installing Node.js is very simple. You can get the tarball and do a make install, configure make install. And there is a Node package manager, just like we do apt-get or yum install. There is a package manager called npm, Node Package Manager. It can install all the libraries for you. So if I have to create a new Node application with server, all I need to write is Express and the application name. This has created, sorry. That's it, our Node application is created. Let's go to my app. So we can see the JS file, we can see some files here. Now we have to install the dependencies. So we will do Node Package Manager, npm. It will fetch the dependencies. It will take a while because there's a slow internet connection. So let's get back to the presentation. We'll see this demo after a while once all the things are done. So how can Drupal be benefited from Node.js? There is a Node.js module for Drupal. We can use this module to do several real-time stuff in Drupal. This module currently supports notifications. So if we execute certain tasks in Drupal, we can have this real-time notification pushed to the client. Let's see what this module does. So I have this Node.js module installed. We'll come to how to install this module and all those things later. Let's see what this module can do for us. So I have this basic web Node.js Drupal 7 installation, and I will do a system-wide broadcast. There is a message that I want to send to all the users to make sure Node.js is running. I will start my Node.js server. Okay, my Node.js is already started. Now let's do a system-wide broadcast. So suppose an example of this would be, suppose my website is going down for maintenance. There might be hundreds of users who are already using my website. I need to inform them that website is going down for maintenance. How do we do that? We'll write message from admin. System is maintenance mode. And we will broadcast it. So since my server started, I had already some messages in queue, so we saw it many times. So without refreshing my page, I got this message from admin that the system is going down in maintenance mode. Now, what else can we do with this module? We can build a browser-based chat application, just like Facebook has with this module. And there's another module called Buddy Chat. Buddy Chat doesn't necessarily require this module, but I'll show you what is the advantage of using this module. So I see another user online. I type a message. I got message from admin. Hello. I send a hello again to the admin. I receive the message. Now this is happening real time. You can notice there is no delay. I'll type something and it will show there. Let me refresh the page so that all the message queues are cleared. So this is happening real time. If we do not use Node.js, we can also use this Drupal chat module with long polling. So let's configure Drupal chat with long polling and we will see the difference. It will not be real time anymore. What's wrong with this? Meanwhile, the page loads. I'll show you another group chatting or chat rooms. There's another module called chat rooms which uses Node.js. Something went wrong. So we have a real-time group chat enabled. Now, can we do something similar to what Facebook does? Yes, but then we will have to write some custom code. We'll see how we can do that. So, for example, I have a Facebook style status. I do a test status. I have my test status. If I like the status, I have admin liked your test status. If I comment, okay, so this is not tested well. So we have this real time. I can only see my status here, so it is again showing back to me. If I can see other users post, even here if I post something, same thing will happen. So, but now what we want to learn is how to configure Node.js with Drupal. So we have a lot of experience with Drupal, but since we are all new to Node.js, it might be very difficult for us to configure Node.js. But trust me, it is very simple. You do not need to learn Node.js a lot to use this module, but I would suggest Node.js is a very good technology. If you can learn it on your own, then you can do a lot of things in Drupal. And we will also see what other things, how Node.js can be helpful with Drupal in other ways. So do you want me to install everything from a fresh Drupal installation, or shall I just show you what configurations I have done here? What would be easier for you guys?
We can walk through with you the installation process.
The whole installation process. Okay, how much time we have? 15 minutes? Okay, I think we can cover that. So I have a new Drupal installation. Example. Let me see what I have. So let's start with a fresh Drupal installation. This is my Drupal installation. I'll log in as admin. So first thing that we need to do is to download Node.js module. My internet is not working. Okay. We'll download Node.js module. Okay, I'll copy it from elsewhere. Okay, it seems it is already downloaded by now. So simple download and enable. Okay, now let's go to the configuration. So I hope how this is done, right? No, just Drush download, Drush enable. It's just some simple module download and enable. Now if I go to configuration, this sucks. I see Node.js configurations here. Okay, there are other Node.js modules which I would like to enable along with a core Node.js module is Node.js notifications. Node.js Watchdog, Node.js Ajax. So there are a couple of modules which you can enable. Notifications is the module which gives the notification. Otherwise, you have to implement your own notification. As of now, Node.js is not integrated with notifications framework of Drupal. So if you guys are really interested in this module, you can write the code and contribute it back on tomorrow's sprint. So now I get a little bit of configuration, which is the tricky part here. So you need to have Node.js just enable other modules as well. Config, subscribe. So now the module is enabled. So we will get a bunch of configurations here. So here we need to specify what. So basically what happens is we have Drupal, we have user, and we have Node.js. How does real-time communication happen? The user contacts Drupal. Drupal sends an authentication token, which is derived from the user's user ID. That authentication token is sent to Node.js. Node.js then establishes a connection between the client and Node.js and another connection between the server, the Drupal and Node.js. Now, whenever there is a update which Drupal has to notify to the user, Drupal sends that update to Node.js. Okay, this is the update which has to be sent to the user, along with the authentication token and the channel. Channel can be all users or a particular user. So every user on the website is subscribed to the all users channel. So if it's a broadcast, then Node.js will specify all open connections, will send the message to all open connection. If the channel is for only one user, the Node.js will send notification to that particular user. And on the client side, we need to have JavaScript, which will know what to do with this particular kind of notification. So we have Drupal and Drupal setup. Now we need to set up the Node.js server. So to do that, we have to make certain configuration changes here. So I will specify the port at which Node.js should work, the Node.js server host. Now you can have local host, but I would suggest use a subdomain of the website or simply any dummy domain. So I have created a domain, nodedrupal.com. It's a simple Nginx configuration. I have to specify the port Nginx. Now I'll write that domain name which I'm using, which I want Node.js to listen to. Now again, there is a configuration builder here which can help me build the Node.js configuration. There are certain configuration which is required by Node.js to understand the interface between Drupal and Node.js. So we have this configuration. We again specify the port. We specify the host. Other configuration does not require any change. Service key, you can leave it, or if you want your connection to be secure, you can specify a MD5 hash. The host name of Drupal site, my host name is examplesite.com. So I'll specify this. It is running on port number 80. I want to turn on debug. If I turn on debug, Node.js will throw the debug messages. It is very helpful in understanding what is happening in the backend. Is there any extension which I want to load? None as of now. So I have a bunch of configurations already created here. Now I need to go back to my Node.js module. There is an example Node.js configuration. I'll create a new file here. That file is nodejs.config.js, and in this file I will specify this configuration. So key is not required, path certificate is not required. Somehow this path is incorrect. The correct path is publish. And because I have an x64 system, socket.io flash socket and HTML does not work, but it works on most of the server. So you don't need to worry about this. So now my Node.js configuration is saved. Now I can start my Node.js server. To do that, I'll go to the module directory, sites, all modules, Node.js, and I will, now for Node.js to work, it should resolve all the dependencies. So to do that, we need to write here npm install. So these all steps are specified in the README. So if you do not follow, you can see the README file of this, or you can just take a note of this. So it is downloading the relevant Node.js modules. Once all the modules are downloaded, I can start my Node.js server, and then the communication between Node.js and Drupal will happen. Okay. So I can see a bunch of more new files here, which, so basically our module is now a full-fledged Node.js server. If we know how to tweak Node.js, we can leverage this module to do a lot of things. So now let me start. To start a Node.js server, we need to type node server.js. Okay. Okay, my config file has some error. Let's resolve this. Sorry?
Comments are not a problem.
Indent shouldn't be a problem, na? I think the problem is here. Yeah, right. Okay, so my node server has started. Now our server was nodedrupal.com. Let's see if it resolves. Although I'm using Nginx, you can use Apache if you want, or you can simply, so it is working now, otherwise it would have socket.io. Okay, so my node server is running. Now let's go to our example site. So let's create another user to see the broadcast, or I can see the broadcast here itself. Configure Node.js settings, system-wide broadcast, test. So, so the broadcast has happened. I can see this message. If I want this message to be seen by other users, I can simply create another user and do. So basically it's the same thing. So our Node.js is working properly. So we followed a couple of steps, very simple steps. Without writing any code, we were able to set up Node.js and Drupal. Now, if I have to use all these things for my own module, or I want to build something like Facebook with this module, how can I do this? This module specifies a bunch of configurations through which we can use, we can write code which will use this notification and Node.js framework. Let's see what are the configurations. So I have written a custom module for, so in Drupal 7 there's a statuses module. Statuses module is nothing like, it's just like Facebook status streams, right? So I enabled this like and unlike feature here. How can we do this like and unlike? So I just wrote a very simple module. My site is Node.js example sites all module. How much time we have? 15 minutes. So there's a very simple module that I wrote, and I'm using hook. This is an implementation of hook_flag. So what we are doing here is, before a flag is saved, flag is the like that we see here is coming from the flag module, right? When a flag is saved, I am hooking into the process and we are creating a message object, right? In the message object, I have a subject, I have a body. Then there's a channel. Which channel we want to send it to? We want to send it to all Node.js users. To do that, we have to specify Node.js user and the user's ID. The callback is Node.js notify. Node.js notify callback is a JavaScript function which comes from the Node.js notify module, which implements a JavaScript function on the backend which shows that message. We can override that, or we can change the callback and have our own function and do a lot of things. And then we enqueue this message to Node.js. Very simple. Again, I add a custom JavaScript file which is not required because we are using Node.js notify. If we change this function to my function and I want to do something else, I don't want that kind of a message. If I want to have a notification where the counter increases, and then when somebody clicks on the counter and then we see the message. Or suppose if you want to update a view, or if you want to update a node, when a node is saved, we can override this function. Similarly, we have comment for Facebook comment. There's this hook_FBSS comment after save. So the same thing we are doing here is we are creating a message object. We are populating that. We specify the channel and the callback, and then we enqueue this. Simple. So whenever we like or comment on a status, the message is shown to us. Now Node.js, let's look into the Node.js notification module. So this is the JavaScript file which this module gives us. They just specify a Node.js notify callback, which what it does is it gets the message and it shows the message using jgrowl JavaScript library. We can override this and do whatever stuff we want to. For example, if somebody is displaying, if a node is being displayed to a user, and the node is changed in the backend, until unless the user refreshes the page, he will not see the change in the node, right? But in certain application, real-time applications, where we want data to be, for example, if you are having a stock market application where the stock prices, we need to change the stock prices as soon as it changes. Or for example, a cricket live score website where we want to update the score without reloading the page. For example, what Cricinfo does now is they reload the page every 5-10 seconds. What we can do is we can update the score whenever there is a change in the score. To do that, we simply have to write a callback, exactly how this callback is written here, and then we need to specify a JavaScript function. The JavaScript function which we are looking at right now. Sorry. Where is that function? We need to specify a JavaScript function similar to this, and we need to simply write our jQuery code on what do we want to do on this. If we want to update a node, then we can search the node by node ID, the ID of the node, because we have a particular DOM structure in our Drupal, and we can search for that node and we can update that. So all the open channels will receive the message that this node has been updated, and any user who is viewing that node, the teaser of the node or the node page, can see the update of node. We have to write that code. So we can kind of do any stuff with this module as far as real-time notification is concerned. Now we also saw two other kind of applications, two other modules like Drupal chat and the other one is chat. What is it? Chat rooms. They use the same thing, they implement the same thing. So if you want to write your own module which does something similar, you can see the code of those modules and see how they have implemented this, and you can write your own code. What are the other ways in which Node.js can be helpful? So whenever we are doing a third-party API communication, we need to bootstrap Drupal. Even if we have an AJAX call or anything, we need, and it has nothing to do with Drupal, we need to bootstrap Drupal. It is kind of an expensive way of doing it, right? If we have a huge website and the Drupal bootstrap is not very fast, our API request can take a lot of time. And if the page load is dependent on the return of that API request, then our page load time can go significantly slow, right? For example, if we want to do an action on hook user update, and I have a sister website which has the same user's information on the website, and we want to send a web service call to that website to update the user information there, right? If we do it in Drupal, as long as that service call is not returned back, my execution will stop, right? Which might be a performance concern. To do that, the better way of doing that would be let Node.js handle all the API requests. For example, if we are sending bulk SMSs or bulk emails, right? Drupal, we do it on cron run, right? And if you are using poor man's cron or something, sometimes when the cron is running, the site might get really slow, right? So we can let all those things handled by Node.js, and we can just fire a Node.js event through Drupal whenever the cron runs, and Node.js will take care of all those stuff. So here let's see a third-party API communication life cycle, how this can happen. If there's a hook user update, I fire an API request to Node.js. Node.js immediately returns me, okay, I know what I have to do. You can carry on your execution. When Node.js makes that API communication to this third party, and that third party relays the request back, we can again come back to Drupal. We can map a function in Drupal which will complete the rest of the operation. Whatever state change has to be done in the user's user table, we can write a function and do those changes on the back end. So the page load is not suffered, right? The page is immediately loaded for the user. There is a lot of stuff which might happen in the back end when Node.js receives the API callback. So we can cut down the page load time by one or 2 seconds, as long as the API call takes, right? We can do that. Then we can have repetitive jobs, as I said, for example, sending SMSs, bulk SMSs. So if our website is fairly large, if we want to send a lot of bulk SMSs or email, we cannot do it on cron, right? We can schedule Node.js to constantly send bulk SMSs or emails. And there's a concept called eventual persistency, right? If you are sending emails, it might not, I mean, it is not necessary for me to send email all of a sudden, right? If I have to send 1,000 emails at one go and my server infrastructure can support only sending 100 mails, what will happen if a request of 1,000 sending 1,000 email comes? I cannot do that, right? So I can eventually send 100, then another 100, then another 100, right? But if I wait for a cron run to happen and my cron run is scheduled for 6 hours, my second set of email will wait for another 6 hours. But Node.js, what we can do, we can tell Node.js, you have to send 1,000 emails and it's up to you when you want to send it. So it will send 100, another 100, another 100, and when you eventually finish in like 2 minutes. That's all. Is there any questions you guys have?
Yeah, actually the server which you have installed, Node.js server, does it have the communication with MySQL or any database so that we can do that?
You might not, as far as Node.js is concerned, Node.js implements this database drivers for MySQL. You can directly use Node.js to talk to database, right? Or you can use Redis, you can use MongoDB, right? If you want to talk to MySQL database, you can do that. I was as a test project, what I have done is, I have developed a Drupal website. The mobile version of that website, I am developing Node.js using MySQL same Drupal database, right? You do not need to have your admin interface of Drupal's admin interface in your mobile. You will never update your page content through mobile. So the bare minimum feature which user has to see has to only be present on the mobile device. So you can do it in other technology also using the same, because Drupal's database structure is awesome, right? You can use the same structure and build a separate parallel application which can be for mobile, right? Because with Node.js you can use client-side MVCs also. For example, Backbone.js. Many of you might have heard about it. It's a client-side MVC. You can use it for making thick client JavaScript applications. So do I answer that question? Or alternative way of doing it would be, you can use hook_menu, right? Have a URL registered, a function call which takes care of a certain thing when Node.js returns something to the user. You can get it as a post or a GET request, or simply implementing a RESTful API. So basically we are using REST here for the communication between Node.js and Drupal. So if you have any confusion, I have not covered a lot of stuff in my presentation. There is a very good webinar, Acquia webinar on how to use Node.js with Drupal. You can search for Node.js Drupal and you can get an Acquia webinar. You can see the webinar, it is very elaborate. You can download the module, you can go through the README files, right? And then this module is very well documented. What is not very well documented is the chat module. So one second. Let's go to the documentation. Whatever I have discussed here, it's present in the documentation. You can read the documentation. So the installation process is defined step by step here. So you can read this through, and so the only problem that you might face is when you save the configuration file. Like when I save the default configuration file, the default configuration might not work for you. So to know why your default configuration is not working, you will have to understand a little bit of Node.js. And for example, WebSockets, Flash sockets and HTML5 is not working with my virtual machine. So I need to disable this. So you need to figure out which socket transport method is not working. But generally if you are running Linux or on a server, everything will work. On a virtual machine, there is a lot of constraints, so I cannot use them. Then the URL that I had was earlier, the configuration that gave me was Node.js/publish, but the publish URL, until unless I changed this to publish, it did not work. And there was something written here, some path to you do not actually require that. So these are the minor changes that I did, and it started working for me. Otherwise, it's very straightforward. You can install this module, start using it. You can develop something like Facebook. In fact, at HCL, we have, using all these features, we have developed an internal social networking tool, which has almost all the features that Facebook has. So, and it is fully built on Drupal and using this kind of technologies, Node.js and all.
So what type of communication does it establish with the client browser and the server?
Sorry?
Is there any Ajax-based communication with the
Node.js will first, so Node.js has a module called socket.io. That module, what it does is it figures out what are the capabilities of your browser. If your browser is HTML5 enabled, it will use HTML5 WebSockets. If the browser is not HTML5 capable, it will try for Flash sockets. If Flash is disabled on your website, it will try for long polling or polling, or there are other two methods which it will try for, or simply Ajax request. But if you want real-time communication, you need to have at least WebSockets or Ajax sockets, something like that. Long polling is not as quick as WebSockets. For example, here, as soon as I'm sending a message, it is received by the other user immediately. If I use long polling, if I configure Drupal chat to use long polling instead of Node.js, there will be a lag. So here I'm using Node.js. If I change it to long polling, there will be lag. If you have, I will show it. So now let's see what happens. Now let's send a message. Okay, let me just, it's still using this connection. Let me shut down. See, it will take a while to come here, right?
Yes.
Now, again, test 1, 2, 3. It will take a while. It will take some time. Depends on how frequently the poll is happening. If the poll is very frequent, the polling is very frequent, then the network connection might suffer, right? It is using a lot of making a lot of requests to the server, which is not good here. And the overhead is on Drupal, right? Drupal has persistent connection. The client is making a request every 1 second or 2 seconds, the same client. But when you're using Node.js, there is a separate server which maintains a single TCP connection with your client, right? And Drupal doesn't have to worry about it at all. Whenever it has to say something to the browser, it will say that to Node.js, and Node.js will take care of it. Right. Any more questions?
How heavy is it for servers? Like when suppose we create different search servers. So do we have to create a different server for this as well, or should it work on the same server?
It will work on the same server. Node.js is very light, and what we are doing here is a very, very thin application. We are not doing much. It is hardly 1,000 lines of JavaScript code, and Node.js is really quick. It is, and because all the libraries of Node.js is implemented in C++, right? All the library, FS, file system and all. So it is really quick. You don't have to worry a lot about performance.
Server loads.
Server load, yeah. Or you can do a stress testing. Use A/B to see how well it is doing. If your server is not coping up with having both the servers together, you can move Node.js to another server. Any more questions? Thank you.